If the only constant is change, how does change appear as balance? Why don't predators proliferate to the degree at which they'll consume all prey? As the human body's regulated, so are there ecological rules that influence the numbers and kinds of life in an ecosystem. Consider an apex predator. Lie-in-wait predators, such as northern pike, hide in weeds at the edges. Thick weeds block the light, and like a side room with the lights turned off, the hunter lurks, watching concealed by the light bathing the milling shoal. Their elongated, torpedo-esque bodies with flattened heads, large caudal fins, and dorsal and anal fin placement far back on the body allows for the thrust needed to launch out at passing prey. The relationship between an animal's morphology and its behavior is exemplified by comparison with another top predator's adaptations. Largemouth bass express a rover predator body type. Fins more evenly distributed about the body provide stability, prioritizing maneuverability. Following their food, these game fish spend most of their time near and immersed in the limnetic zone, where panfish will congregate, spending most of their time. Adult feeding habitat, separating themselves from their fry and juveniles, avoiding intraspecific competition. Above the depth at which light penetration ceases, the limnetic zone is the open and well-lit portion of a freestanding body of water. Together, the littoral and limnetic zones is where all the sun's energy is absorbed, often differentiated by its absence of rooted plants, where oxygen production balances with respiration. Life depends on the littoral and develops in vies in the limnetic. Rated at a crepuscular rhythm, the littoral zone is at once a nursery and pantry. As morphology dictates behavior, so is diet dependent. Northern pike, once 2.5 inches long, are exclusively predatory with fish as their primary food. Bass, however, as roaming predators, exploit a much wider array of prey. Fingerlings start feeding on microcrustaceans. Insects become preference at 1.5 inches. Bass over 4 inches feed mainly on fish, large insects, and crayfish, actively prowling mid-morning through afternoon, seldom biting at night. Like behavior modification, diets will vary depending on the present amalgamation of environmental variables. Infamously, ducklings have been found in the stomachs of large northern pike. Popular topwater fishing lures for largemouth bass mimic frogs. One possible path that energy flows through an ecosystem is through a food chain. Every organism partakes in multiple food chains. All of the food chains of an ecosystem make up a food web. Organisms in food webs are categorized into trophic levels. Producers are autotrophs, such as algae and aquatic plants. Primary consumers are herbivores, zooplankton and tadpoles. Secondary consumers eat herbivores, like panfish and dragonfly larvae. Tertiary consumers eat the secondary, returning our attention to the northern pike. Quaternary eat the tertiary, where occasionally an angler fits into the web. Decomposers, fungi and bacteria turn organic wastes, decaying plants, into inorganic material, returning nutrients to soil and lakes for autotrophs, completing a web cycle. Such dynamics are governed by a set of ecological rules which all ecosystems on Earth abide. Not all species are equal in effect on an ecosystem. Disproportionate to their numbers, keystone species exert effects upon the diversity and stability of their ecosystems. Magnitude of influence, not position in food web, distinguishes. An apex predator serves an important factor in preventing overpopulation of stunted fish populations. Some members of food webs mediate intense indirect trophic cascades. A dramatic example, introductions of non-native planktivore fishes into lakes will result in the elimination of large zooplankton, resulting in the proliferation of small zooplankton species. Which alters every level of the food web. Secondary consumers become less abundant and smaller, which in turn affects the tertiary consumer's growth potential. Competition is the demand of more than one organism for the same resource of a particular habitat in excess of available supply. See the pike's healed harlequin scar? Interactions among individuals of the same species are very similar to those among individuals of different. Most intraspecific interactions are latent with the potential to alter chances of genetic survival. Intense exchanges are the norm. Certain species populations are controlled by density-dependent feedback. The growth rate declines as population increases. Body size determines the mechanisms of population regulation in food webs. Smaller animals are regulated by predators, while larger animals by availability of prey. Reducing simultaneously bottom-up and top-down regulation. Migration increases population by increasing access to food, at the same time decreasing susceptibility to predators. Self-regulating predator-prey relationships develop with stable environmental conditions. Steady predation of a prey species reduces intraspecific competition and increases growth rates of the prey species. Often, such growth also increases fecundity. If surplus of prey occurs, predator species will increase in number, as well as intraspecific competition in the surplus species, yielding slower reproduction and growth. Thus, both prey and predator species numbers are reduced until the point when the cycle repeats.